What's up, everybody? What's up, everybody? It's another edition of Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson for Southeastern 14. And let's start off by telling you about our good friends at Bet Online, which remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contest. NFL, UFC, NBA, NHL are in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering, news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops betting action, along with every sport available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. That is all caps BLEAV. Again, that's all caps BLEAV. Enter that as your promo code, 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online where the game starts. All right. Where we will start is that I'm Brian. This is Jay. We had some breaking news the other day. And so when anybody asks you 15 years from now, where were you when you found out that Nick Saban called it a career?
Well, I actually was getting into the front seat of my F-150 and looked at my phone because the avalanche of news. And let's just take a step back, man. I mean, before we get into that, all right, I'll continue that story to answer your question. I opened up my phone because I was at a middle school girls basketball practice, coaching a middle school basketball team. I get in and I've got 42 text messages. And the first one that comes is from my man, Brian Edwards. And it says, finally, all caps with an exclamation point. And the first thing I thought was, well, this is Wednesday. I know he knows Arthur Smith's been fired by now. So I know he hates him. So, okay, what's next? Did Billy Napier get fired? Is he really just doing cartwheels with a finally? So I start scrolling down, and because I went to Auburn, I've got like 25 fraternity brothers. I've got everybody I know in the community. I've got people from the newsroom here at the Times Free Press going, "What just happened?" So I found out. I got to tell you, in that regard, it reminded me. Back in the days when you and I used to work at the Mary Daily Journal, you had left. I was still there. I was a sports editor. The only day I had off working 6 days a week was Sunday. I was sound asleep and got like 42 to 50 missed phone calls because this wasn't a text message age. These were flip phones at the best. I mean, we're talking like Nokia phones and those things that were just terrible. I was sound asleep at the end of the Daytona 500 when Dale Earnhardt got killed.
Oh yeah.
And that was the feeling I had because it just came to me. I'm like panicking because all this news is coming into my phone. I'm going, what has happened? Did somebody get assassinated?
Right.
But you look at it, the SEC is never going to be the same. Nick Saban was a one-off. Nick Saban, I wrote this week at timesfreepress.com. It was not Roy Kramer. It was not Greg Sankey. It was not any of the leadership. It was not any of the institutions. Nick Saban lifted the SEC to its pinnacle in college football. And he did that because he was the rising tide that lifted all boats, because he came in here and he ran off Tuberville and he ran off Spurrier and he ran off. Spurrier was gone before that, right? He ran off Meyer.
Spurrier's 3-1 against Sabes, but go ahead. Sorry.
Well, a bunch of that was LSU. He ran off Spurrier at South Carolina now.
Spurrier went 1-1 at South Carolina. That's a victory.
He didn't want to work as hard as Saban was going to work. He didn't want to recruit as hard as Saban was going to recruit. He knew the writing on the wall. And I know you are a banner-carrying Spurrier homer, and that is fine. But I'm a banner-carrying Saban all-timer, and I graduated from Auburn. So think about that for a second. This guy changed the game. He did it in a way that nobody else ever will. And he did it at an excess level, and a success level that no one will ever see. But all the administrators and all the schools and all the programs were looking at their guy saying, why can't you do it like him?
Oh, yeah. And dumbass Jeremy Foley tried to hire Muschamp, McElwain, because they had been under Saban. And I like Muschamp, but neither one of them worked. All right. So I was vying for Uncle of the Year honors at I had not been in a movie theater since the last time I took my nephew and niece to a movie like 5 or 6 years ago. I had my new 4-year-old niece. I was at a cartoon movie called Migrations about ducks, but I was on the Twitter the whole time, and then I see that. Oh, I actually had to open and poor Pete Carroll. Poor Pete
Oh,
Carroll.
absolutely. I mean, dude should have got a 24-hour news cycle of flowers being thrown. I mean, he's one of 3 coaches in history to have a natty and a Super Bowl. And he's the only one to do it that was not in Dallas.
Are Jimmy Johnson and Switzer the other 2?
Yes, they are. And Switzer's was the run of the litter who suckled at the teat of Jimmy Johnson. I mean, that's the only reason he got it. But no, Pete Carroll deserved a full victory lap. And he got pushed so far into the shadows. The only thing you can think he was playing was like the Simon and Garfunkel song, "Hello, Darkness, My Old Friend." I mean, no, that dude got screwed.
He got hosed bad.
He did. I mean, it honestly makes me think back to they did a 30 for 30 on it on that day in May in 1995.
It's the O.J. Chase, Mike Tyson fight.
Yes, the World Cup started, and the Knicks were playing in the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Rangers won like the Stanley Cup, and Arnold Palmer was
last U.S. Open,
last major championship golf tournament, and then O.J.'s chase started, and everybody forgot all of it.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Oh my God. I remember I was wanting to watch the Knicks game, and you couldn't.
You couldn't because you know what? AC Callings was just driving that white Bronco. At like 22 miles an hour down the LA interstate.
Yes. And for anybody that has never watched the 5-part series OJ Made in America, is some of the best riveting television I've ever watched. So check that out. Okay, so now I think that I'm not saying like nobody wants to be Ray Perkins. You don't want to follow the man. You don't want to be Ron Zook. You don't want to be Ray Perkins. You want to be the man that follows the man that followed the man. So I mean, I'm not saying that Alabama's going to get Kalen DeBoer, but I believe, and it's not because of it's somebody that I talked to that I believe knows what's going on.
He's the odds-on favorite now.
Well, I think they took it off the board, but he was the favorite as of late yesterday afternoon, last night. But I think the odds are off the board now, or they were when I looked an hour or two ago.
So you think it's DeBoer?
No, I think that's who they're going for. I'm not saying he's going to take it.
He shouldn't. He's got a better chance to win a natty at Washington than he does at Alabama.
I mean, whoever takes this job takes it knowing that 10-2 is hot seat material in the SEC with Oklahoma and Texas on the way.
And with as good a roster as is in the country. But you know what? The one thing, if I was an Alabama fan, I would take confidence in the fact that the administration realizes they've got to move quickly because the buzzards are circling. You don't think Hugh Freeze, you don't think Kirby Smart, you don't think Lane Kiffin, you don't think Steve Sarkisian and those people are not calling every recruit and every kid on that roster now that they get a 30-day extension to the transfer portal because of a coach leaving. Oh my word! I mean,
Well, Greg Byrne addressed the team and asked them all to please give him 72 hours before, making any decisions and looking into leaving. He said, give me 72 hours. So that was Wednesday at what, 4:30 ish Eastern, I believe. So we'll be coming up on 48 hours here and so if he is to deliver on his promise, we're talking 4ish 5 o'clock p.m. tomorrow. He asked the players to give him 72 hours. I mean, Greg Byrne's been preparing for this day or Wednesday. He's been preparing for that for a decade at least, or I don't even remember when he got the job. I feel like it was more than a decade ago.
you can't
So,
prepare for this.
well,
Come
I mean,
on now.
as
You
much
can't prepare for this.
but I mean, you have to know it's coming anytime.
Yeah, you got to know it's coming, but you can't prepare for this because 3 years ago the names would have been totally different.
No, I know,
I
but
mean, there are two things. There are two things I will say as an Auburn graduate. One, every name that will be mentioned on any podcast, from the size of ours to the Pat McAfee show, every single name is going to get a raise over the next 2 days. Number two, the only name that scares me as an Auburn graduate is Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin.
I think he's down the list a little bit.
And that's fine. And I hope so. Dabo doesn't scare me. DeBoer doesn't scare me because he's got no ties down here and he does not know how this works. Dan Lanning didn't scare me, but he's now reaffirmed to Oregon, which was a very smart move because Nike's got more NIL pull than anything in Tuscaloosa. See, here's the thing. Alabama's got an unbelievable pedigree. They've got as good of history as anybody in the sport, better than Michigan, better than anybody really this side of Notre Dame. But the last 15 years, you're kidding yourself if you think it's about the capstone. It was about the coach. This was not about the Tide. This was about Terry's husband. It was about Nick Saban, period, end of conversation. Because everybody talks about the most difficult position in sports is an NFL quarterback. I can get that. The most valuable position in sports is a college football head coach because a great one generates $50 million a year, not only for your academics, not only $50 million a year each for your school, for your athletic program, and for your community. Nick Saban brought $150 million a year into Tuscaloosa. And if you think I'm wrong, look it up.
No, I saw a tweet about how much out-of-state tuition has gone up since the day they hired him to now, and that it basically was implying that he made the school more than $1 billion.
And they paid him $150 million. So any business anywhere want to say, I'm going to put $150 million in to get $1 billion. Yeah, I think I'll take that deal.
Absolutely. And you being an Auburn fan, me being a Florida fan, we both being Falcons fans, think about how our life would have been different if the Miami Dolphins would have had competent medical team, because Drew Brees went to Miami first when Saban had just gotten hired, and he wanted to go to the Dolphins, and Saban wanted him, and the Miami Dolphins medical team would not clear Drew Brees because remember he had that shoulder injury with the Chargers like the last game of the regular season. And so then he goes to New Orleans with Peyton. The Saints medical team clears him, and so he goes to the Saints. The Saints win a Super Bowl, and if Dante Culpepper, not the fat guy with the Dolphins, the Minnesota Vikings Dante Culpepper, but he wasn't that anymore. He was the Dolphins fat ass that Saban got stuck with. And if he'd had Brees, Saban might be the Belichick in the NFL. Saints never win the Super Bowl, and Alabama might still be garbage.
You want a great trivia question to combine this into your total hatred?
Sure.
Do you know who the lead medical examiner for the Miami Dolphins was?
Douchebag Danny Cannell's dad.
there you go.
God, I hate that family.
Because then they unleashed the terror that was Saban. And I will tell you this. I'll tell you a funny anecdote story. I hadn't written this yet, but I meant to. Not only was the reason I heard about the Saban was in all caps, finally with an exclamation point from a Florida grad. I went from a middle school girls basketball practice to a rec league middle school practice in between. And the first guy I saw in the gym was a Tennessee grad, and he and I hugged. I mean, there was universal celebration. And I apologize. I know there are Alabama fans and graduates watching this, and I know you guys are numb inside. And I get it because it is completely understandable. But I also want you to think about embracing the joy you had as opposed to the joy you think you're going to miss. But I also want you to know, sooner rather than later, you're going to know what it's like to have to tailgate at 10:30 in the morning and try to stomach that Bloody Mary for a directional game rather than being at the 3:30 or the 9 o'clock game because you're primetime mother bleepers, right? Because here's what's coming. What all the rest of us have had to deal with without Nick Saban.
Yeah, no, but I mean, you are right. Like, I mean, that's like I remember January 4th, 2002, like it was yesterday. That was when the news of Steve Spurrier resigning. And I mean, I told my boss, I go, hey, I'm about to write a quick article about him stepping down, and I'm the F out of here. And I ain't asking. I'm gone. Well, I'm going to the house. I'm going to drink beer, watch Spurrier highlights, and sit in the freaking dark all day.
You know what's crazy right here? You mentioned Pete Carroll deserving a victory lap, and that's 100% accurate. Then you mentioned, remembering it like it was yesterday, does it not feel like Michigan won a national championship like, I don't know, 6 weeks ago?
Right. And
I mean, think of the stuff we've had this week. Michigan and Jim Harbaugh, what was that in December? When did that happen? I mean.
And hey, Spurrier planned when he did his, because guess who won the national title the night before? Miami.
Yeah.
And he dropped that news around lunchtime, or it might, I'm not exactly sure what time of day it was, but it took the shine off of Miami's natty real quick. And yeah, and now Michigan job, I guess, when will we find out about that? I mean, well, Harbaugh, it's not like these NFL jobs are getting gobbled up real quick. I mean, there's the Rooney rule, there's a hiring process.
The NFL jobs, they've got to check some boxes. They got to make certain they interview minority candidates. They've got to do a whole lot of different things that unless you're the Patriots, who apparently have hired Rod Mayo, and he's a minority. So, I mean, there you go. I mean, if he's the guy you want, you don't have to check any other boxes. We don't have to say, hey, we're going to call Jay Greeson and see if his fat face can get to Foxborough. No, I mean, you're good. You can just go ahead and hire him and call it a day.
And now Vrabel's in play for us, maybe.
Well, so's Belichick. But you asked about Harbaugh, and I'll say this. The thing that has screamed to me about Harbaugh is if he's truly got a 10-year, $120 million contract out there, and he has not signed it,
he has
not signed it in a time where college coaches need to be recruiting, need to be portaling, need to be evaluating which assistants they want to get, keep, whatever else. There's a lot to do right now for college coaches. So if he's not going to sign that extension, that is pretty clear to me. Dude's got his head on a swivel for the next opportunity. And let's be honest. Don't we all realize that the NCAA has closed their Auburn satellite office and moved it to Ann Arbor for at least the next 6 months? Because the hammer is coming.
And if Harbaugh leaves, I think they stay in-house with more.
Got to, don't you?
Yeah. So I don't think a domino falls in terms
Right.
of, just to point that out. Okay, we do have NFL playoffs and SEC basketball, and we probably only got about 25 minutes to handle it, so we should probably move on. Although we could make a whole show. We can keep talking about this for an hour.
We've got to because
All right,
I've had multiple emails from people who watch this that enjoy
they want to know. Okay.
The occasional Falcon conversation because we're both passionate Falcon fans, and our hatred for Arthur Smith has been celebrated now that he is. We don't really want to. We don't need a bleeding heart for Arthur Smith. His dad's a billionaire. He owns FedEx. We're good.
This is what I got for Arthur Smith. Both of these. How can you not see both? Both.
Hey, those actually technically are dirty birds.
They are.
Yeah, they are. That's what I do for a living. I'm good with work. But the whispers about Belichick being very interested in the Falcons, I've had multiple emails also telling me, you know what? It's a very similar situation to when he established himself in the AFC East because that division sucked. And every year he started the year 6-0 because the Jets blew, the Dolphins blew, the Bills blew. And then all you got to do after that, back then when it was a 16-game schedule, you go 5-5 in your other 10 and you're 11-6, or you win 11 games and you're 11-5 and you're in the playoffs every year.
He's thinking Dennis Allen, Todd Bowles, to be determined with Tepper hiring him.
With Bryce Young. How the hell can I not shut those people down?
I got Drake London, Bijan Robinson. Falcons had like a top best defense we've had in a decade this year.
Yeah, a lot of them on one-year deal, those. A lot of them on one-year deal.
But yeah. But and we got a draft pick where hopefully Jaden Daniels I'm kind of down on Penn. I was high on Penix. I'm kind of down on him after that performance the other night.
Hey, count me in team second rounder to Chicago for Justin Fields.
Yeah, that's and why are the Bears keeping Eberflus or whatever the hell his name is? What are they doing keeping that guy?
It sounds like Eberflus is like the grandson of that fat girl who was in the Willy Wonka chocolate factory. That she just put. I mean, maybe the grandson of the fat guy, the German kid who just ate chocolate after chocolate after chocolate. I am Eberflus. I mean, so.
Well, here, let me ask you this. And we can go back to the Falcons if we're not done there yet. But there's no way Kiffin says no to Bama, is there? Because I think there's a very good chance DeBoer will say no, I think.
Yes. No, DeBoer should say no. Right. He's connected there. He's got, hey, DeBoer turning Washington around, he's got a 5-year window. Whoever, with the exception of maybe Harbaugh, whoever comes to Tuscaloosa has 3 years to prove they can make this work. Period.
Right.
Period.
Now, Sexton will make sure, assuming it's one of his clients, that they get a 5 or 6 year deal, but that don't mean
that doesn't matter.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying Sexton will make sure they get paid for more than that. But without question, they have 2.5 years. Ron Zook lasted 2.5 years, got fired after Sly Kroom, and the running back that eventually went to the Falcons ran all over. Anyway, it was 2.5 years. I think it was like mid-ish, late October. Zook got canned. I forget how long Ray Perkins lasted, but that was a different era. Anyway, but oh gosh. I had one more thing on let's say they get denied from DeBoer. And by the way, a friend sent me a tweet. Apparently Norvell, now I'm not saying they were after Norvell. I don't know that, but Norvell sent out a tweet basically saying he ain't going nowhere. So he's out. I don't know if that was a new contract or what. I just saw the tweet. It was a spear going in the ground at that toilet bowl in Tallahassee. But let's say that the Browns win tomorrow. There's no way D'Amico Ryans leaves the Houston Texans when he's got C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson and that bright future. There's no way, right?
He's about to be NFL Coach of the Year. And
I know. Hey, the Alabama, I mean, some people love them some Alabama Crimson Tide.
Well,
there's no way D'Amico thinks about that, right?
I don't think – you don't see a whole lot of guys –
go NFL to college. Jim Harbaugh, Nick Saban.
Saban did because
he wasn't getting fired.
It wasn't working. He saw that there was a disaster in front of him.
Right.
I certainly don't see – I mean, Spurrier did. He left Washington because he was in a dumpster fire and went to South Carolina. So I get it if – it's not like D'Amico Ryans had a ton of success at a college school and then went to the NFL and struggled and then came back.
I don't think he would leave, but I mean, it might give him pause. He might have to think about it for a minute. Nah.
I don't think a lot of those guys want to leave because the college job is harder. You work around the clock.
Yeah.
You have to recruit. You have to kiss the ass of 18-year-old boys and the mamas and grandmamas of 18-year-old boys. In the NFL, it's football, and if you don't like it, hit the bricks. Not for long is what the NFL stands for, as Jerry Glanfield told us many years ago.
You know who he was talking to, right? He was talking to a referee.
Right.
With BS calls like that, it's going to be not for long for you, buddy. All right. Let's talk SEC hoops. We have Tennessee at Georgia. And, hey, I told Georgia fans Mike White was a pretty good hire, and he was not nearly as bad as all Florida fans made him out to be. And he's got Georgia on a 10-game winning streak, 5-4-1 ATS. Now they're during the 10-game winning streak. They're 12-3 straight up overall, 6-8-1 ATS. They're also 10-0 at home, only 4-5-1 ATS. Now, we don't have lines yet. I wrote down that I thought Tennessee would be 5.5. This is a noon Eastern start. Tennessee coming off a tough loss at the Hump and Starkville the other night. But KenPom has Tennessee listed at 7 and a total of 143. So we're thinking the line's going to be 6-7. I said 5.5. If those are the lines, any thoughts on that one?
Well, I will tell you this, and this is a big picture thought, that now that we're back in school and now the students are back on campus, this week has shown us very clearly highly regarded and highly ranked teams going on the road for conference games now that the students are back. I know Auburn over the weekend went to Arkansas. Class hadn't started and beat the ever-living piss out of the Razorbacks. A historic loss in Bud Walton Arena. But now the rest of these, I mean, FAU escaped Tulane last night. Tulane covered. You look at what all of the 1, 2, and 3 lost outright on the road in conference games. 5 Tennessee lost outright in Starkville. I mean, you've got to be very careful laying anything more than a handful of points to a hungry home team against a highly ranked, regarded Super Bowl, if you will. Is this going to be the highest ranked team that comes to Georgia? I don't know, but it's going to be one of the better crowds.
Yeah, I think they kind of got a bad break with it being noon Eastern. Just thinking of the hungover students on a Saturday morning. I bet if this was a night game, I bet it would be the biggest crowd at Stegeman in a long, long time. It'll probably still be one of their best crowds in a long, long time. And I got to give a little hat tip to our colleague here at Southeastern 14, Max Barr. I was in Tallahassee, and I had to hit the interstate last night, so I listened to Chris and Max and Blake, and Max said, have all top five teams lost, or just four of the top five
Four
teams
of the top
lost?
five. I don't know who number 4 was,
Right.
but I know 1, 2, 3, and 5 have lost.
I don't want to misquote him. I think he said that that I forget if it was the first time ever that the four of the top five teams had lost by the midweek. Maybe I might be misquoting him, but obviously his point was that, wow, we got great parity in college basketball. That makes for a great season, and obviously we love great marches, and probably going to be in store for one. So with all that said, was there a pick you had on Tennessee or Georgia, or is that a pass?
Well, I'm going to pass because we don't know what the number is.
Right.
And here's the other thing. Tennessee's going to show up pretty ticked off.
Pissed off.
Because they did not play well in Starkville. And Rick Barnes, I mean, he's kind of got a little Norman Dale in him. That he ain't afraid to let you know, strap, make it a good one. All right. I mean, mind that purgatory they call a gym, and don't allow the drive 12 foot in.
And I'm just looking this up real quick because it just piqued my interest, because we're thinking about Saban's age, Carroll's age, Belichick's age. I'm just wondering how old is my guy Rick Barnes, and he is 69, young pup, got at least 3 more good years left in him. Okay, I'm a pass as well, just because I don't want to go against a pissed off Tennessee team, and I don't want to lay points, more than 5 points to a team that's undefeated in 10 home games and has won 10 in a row and has got more confidence than it's had within the program in years and years.
With the win at Missouri, that's a great win. They won at Arkansas too, right?
No, they beat Arkansas at home the other night.
Okay, but they did win in Missouri.
And by the way, last Friday, I think the early line from DraftKings was either 4.5 or 5 on Auburn going to Arkansas, and you loved it at 4.5 or 5. We woke up Saturday morning. I usually don't think of Jay Greeson when I wake up on Saturday mornings, but when I saw the line, 2.5, when I saw the line 2.5, I thought, wow, Jay might really like this game now. And that was the biggest pimp slap Arkansas had taken at Bud Walton Arena history. Wow.
My youngest daughter's first year at Auburn has now been paid for.
Nice. And hey, it didn't look good because A&M's feisty and they can muck it up and play defense. But even not playing your A game, you still get the spread cover against A&M. We'll get to Auburn here in a minute. If they got a later game against LSU at 6 Eastern tomorrow, we're just going to go in chronological order. All right. So we got Vandy at Ole Miss. I wrote down 11.5 for Ole Miss. Ken Palm's got Ole Miss at 11 and 145. Now, I will say Vandy has covered 4 in a row and is playing a little better. But I can't back them here, especially after watching Ole Miss just absolutely annihilate my Gators Wednesday night. Yeah. So this is, I don't know that I want to lay a lot of points against Stackhouse though either. So this is probably going to be a pass for me. Ole Miss minus 11-ish. Any thoughts there?
I'd probably lean over there. I mean, if you said it's in the 140 range, I think that game's going to be played in the high 70s. I mean, I'm pass with you as well because I think Ole Miss got a little bit of bounce back after getting royally spanked in Knoxville. So they showed up pretty ticked off against your Gators. But Vandy's feisty, but they're not good. I think Ole Miss has a chance to be pretty good. And so I don't want to lay it either way because this also could be – this game's in Oxford, right?
Yes, correct.
So it's one of those games you can look up and go, oh, yeah, they're playing at home and the place got rowdy and it's a 28-point game, or Vandy could make it tight. But if you want to play this game because you know you're going to watch it, I would advise the over, but I'm not vested either way.
All right, let's move to Kentucky at Texas A&M, which is a 2 p.m. Eastern start. And I wrote down, sorry, Kentucky -2. Ken Palm has got Kentucky -4 at A&M. A&M 5-2 straight up, 2-5 against the spread at home, and Kentucky's 2-0 both straight up and against the spread away. It's Kentucky or pass, and yeah, I don't know that I want to lay 4 though. We'll see what the line is. I would lay 3 or fewer with Kentucky.
I'm laying the lumber with Kentucky here,
Okay.
and for a multitude of reasons. And I lost this week on Kansas because we talked about a minute ago conference heavyweights going on the road and getting everybody's Super Bowl, their best shot, whatever else. Well, the truth of the matter is Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, and USC get that everywhere they go. So those kids are used to it more than most. And in this regard, I don't think this is not a good Buzz Williams team at Texas A&M. They could not score against Auburn. And I know Auburn defensively is good, and they're going to cause you to do a whole lot of things you don't like. Kentucky's every bit as good as Auburn, if not better. And they're more offensively skilled. So this one I like Kentucky as long as you're not talking beyond like 5 or 6. This line's going to grow. I mean, if you think you want it at 3, then you better get it now at 4. But I think Kentucky goes down there and handles their business. And I think as the year goes on, Kentucky's going to be one of those teams. Every passing week, Kentucky's only going to get better.
Yeah, and Florida had one of its best crowds in a long time. And Florida played really well for 35 minutes last week. And Kentucky just hung in there. Florida couldn't put them away. And then Kentucky just kind of took over down the stretch. So I'm going to skip South Carolina and Missouri for now. If we got time, we'll go back to it because I want to talk about this desperation game of sorts. There's no such thing as desperation on January 13th in college basketball. But, this could be getting away from Musselman and or Golden, that being this season, especially with these, Florida loses a heartbreaker, and then they just get absolutely mauled. And if you didn't watch the game, because I know Auburn, I think was Auburn actually might have been the night before, but whatever the case, Florida's star Riley Kugel, Todd Golden was sending him a message the other night. He yanked him after playing only 4 minutes. He was 0 of 3 from the field, 0 for 2 from 3, didn't contribute any other way in the box score. He sat on the bench the whole game. Afterwards, Golden was asked about it, and he said, I didn't think Riley had it tonight. And that's like all he said. So message sent. How does he respond? Does he jump in the portal on Monday? Or, we shall see.
I mean, I will say this. If you can find it in 3 minutes of action, God bless you. I want you picking my lottery numbers if you can find it. He didn't have it tonight. I saw him play for 3 minutes. What is that, like 4 times up and down the floor?
Obviously, this had been brewing for a minute or two, clearly.
This is not about it tonight. This is about him in the program the last weeks. But
so I wrote down Florida -6.5. Ken Palm's got Florida 7 and 165. Arkansas obviously has its own set of issues, just like Florida right now.
Hey, the second half this past weekend, because I did watch cover to cover of Auburn's destruction of Arkansas, and I think Eric Musselman's good at this. His kids quit on him. And it was evident to everybody who watched that game. They didn't guard. It was one pass and shot. It wasn't about competing. It was, let's get done with this to get on to whatever else we got to do. And then you go to Georgia and lose. And I think Mike White and Georgia are doing a hell of a job. Arkansas's got better players than Georgia does. And they went on the road and lost. And I tell a whole bunch of kids, and I've told them for years, you may not be the most talented, but if you give the best effort, you're going to win more times than you lose. Right now, I question Arkansas's effort. I really do. Now, we'll see if your Gator star responds, but is this game in Gainesville? This has a real chance to be a
get right game.
Yeah.
Get right game for the Gators.
Yeah. This has a real chance to be, you look up, and it's 52-25 at halftime.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning Gators as well. And I've got a little, I don't want to say breaking news because then people think Alabama's got a new coach. No, not breaking news, but DraftKings has released its opening lines for tomorrow.
Hey, there we go.
and I think we'll both be pleased with this. Kentucky and A&M is a pick'em. It ain't gonna be pick'em long. It ain't gonna be.
All right, I'm now betting my second year of my youngest daughter's college tuition at Auburn on the Wildcats.
Yeah, Kentucky is pick'em at DraftKings. I don't think they'll be pick'em for long. at all.
And to be fair, everybody who's watching this, it's got to go through the filtering process. It's 1:28 Eastern on Friday afternoon. So if you're thinking, oh my God, those guys are a bunch of blibbering idiots. Yes, we are. But if you're seeing this on Saturday morning, this is when we're making our conversation.
Yeah. I think Kentucky will be 4 on Saturday morning, but right now, you said the time. And let's see, the other SEC games that are out are, the Gators are 7.5 and 165.5. That's another thing about Florida games. I haven't really looked at Arkansas, how they've been doing over underwise, but Florida plays no defense and we score a lot. And I mean, we've been getting like combined scores in the 180s and whatnot, but 165.5 is a high number. I have to do some studying on Arkansas before I would recommend the over. Okay, the other SEC games. All right, Missouri's -1 at home to South Carolina, total of 140. And okay, let me let you guess what you think Auburn will be at home to LSU.
12.
Okay, I wrote down 13. Odds makers are tired of getting beat. They got Auburn at 16.5. And look, LSU got off to a bad start this year, but they have won 4 in a row, including a double-digit win at A&M. So there's that. But Auburn's 16.5, and the total is 150.5. And
well, since we started talking about basketball a month ago, I have said, I mean, I'm laying the number. I swear to God I am, because this is LSU over for me. Auburn at home, better. They are deeper, so when the blowout starts to happen and you clear the bench, Auburn's second 5 is better than your second 5. Their first 5 may be tug of war, and that place is nuts. I mean,
yeah.
It does not have to apologize to Cameron as far as the home court advantage right now. It is absolutely bonkers. I don't remember when it was, but we shared with our viewers that I took the kids down to an Auburn basketball game.
Sellout without the students? Was it a sellout?
The students weren't there. And the place holds more than 9,000. There were 7,800 with no students against Alabama A&M, and the place was wild then.
Right.
I mean, it was.
Yeah.
Bruce Pearl, I got a great mailbag question in my column that said, and I haven't answered it yet because we had so much going on this past week. now that Nick Saban's gone, what college coach has the most job security? And I thought about it for a while. The first thought I had was, well, Jim Harbaugh, if he signs this contract, Jim Harbaugh can coach at Michigan, considering that he's a Michigan man and what he's done. Michigan was a glory program that he didn't rebuild or he didn't refurbish or re-elevate. He rebuilt because Michigan was nothing for more than a decade until Harbaugh got there. I think this side of
has got to be up there. He's got to be up there.
This side of murder, considering what he has done with what he had, there's no Auburn fan anywhere who wants Bruce Pearl to go anywhere.
And for a long time.
Auburn was forgettable.
Yeah.
And Bruce Pearl's turned it into that.
Yeah.
I hate giving up 16.5 points to anything in college basketball. I'm betting Auburn because I'm riding it. I'm riding that horse till it bucks me.
All right. The only other SEC lines I'm seeing is Tennessee -7 at Georgia, which is pretty much where we suggested. Well, I'd made it 5.5, but Ken Palm was 7. That totals 144. And I thought I saw another one. Oh, and Ole Miss is 12 to Vandy. And what did I had made it 11.5, and Ken Palm had it at 11. So no surprises there. I don't see Alabama, Mississippi State anywhere. Okay, we're running a little low on time, so I want to get our NFL picks, and hopefully our audience wants our NFL picks. So, and I know we both have some we like. You want to go? You could go first with one of your favorites.
Well, I'm going to start with the Browns and their defense, even on the road, but it's a dome stadium, so yeah, you'll deal with noise, but so what? And holy gracious, the reinvention of Joe Flacco. I mean, yes, we've had a fire hose of news. I mean, I feel like, remember that scene where like Kramer in Weird Al Yankovic's movie UHF? Hey, kids, you get to drink from the fire hose. That's what this week has been in terms of sports news, because everything you turn around, again, Michigan won the national championship 4 days ago. So think about that. Think about that in the grand scheme of sports. The Browns defensively, great. And we talked about it. What was the number I told you? Rookie quarterbacks since 2010 are 4-15 in playoff starts. 4-15.
2 of the wins from Purdy last year.
Correct.
And TJ Yates' win with the Texans came against AJ Dalton as a rookie with the Bengals.
As another rookie. And then you had Russell Wilson, and he was playing quarterback with the Legion of Boom.
Yes, indeed. So I take it you're on the Browns.
100%. Big on the Browns. The other one I really like.
Hold on. Let me give my take on the Browns. All right. I like over 44.5. So these teams just played on Christmas Eve at Houston, same venue. Cleveland won 36-22 for 58 combined. CJ Stroud did not even play that day. The over's hitting 3 in a row for Cleveland. Combined scores of 58, 57, and 45. But the 45 was with Jeff Driscoll, fresh off the streets, playing quarterback for Cleveland. And that was even better for us in that Flacco, Amari Cooper, and Njoku got open date, essentially. And when Flacco came to Houston on Christmas Eve, 368 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Amari Cooper, 11 catches, 265, and 2 touchdowns. Houston's entire starting defensive line is questionable. Now, I know Will Anderson's going to play because he's played the last 2 games, but Jonathan Greenard, he had 5.5 sacks the first 3 games of December. He's missed the last 2 games. He's very, very questionable. The other 2 starting D linemen are questionable as well. And even going back further for the Browns, the over is 6-1 for them in their last 7 games. And 2 of those combined scores were 58 and 55. So I like the over. So then the night game tomorrow night, Miami at KC. You got anything there?
I got the fact. I'm going to take over under 175 million Americans pissed off that the only way they can watch this game is on Peacock.
I have Peacock.
I know you got Peacock, so you're not one of the. But I'm going over. I mean, I'm still going over.
Sure. All right. Well, I got to fade the Dolphins here.
You do. You have to.
Do I trust Kansas City this year? No, not really. They've lost outright at home 4 times. This is not a vintage KC team we've seen the last 4 or 5, however long years that, maybe it's been 6 years that Mahomes has been in the league. But Miami's got everything going against them. 3 linebackers out for the season in the last 2 weeks, on top of Bradley Chubb out, on top of another starter, Phillips out, Xavier Howard, their best corner. I don't know if they've officially ruled him out, but I know he's very, very doubtful. And then Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert. Mostert more than 1,000 rushing yards this year. Waddle more than 1,000 receiving yards this year. They've both missed the last couple games, and they're very questionable. I have no doubt they're going to try to play, but are they 80%, 90%? We don't know. Miami's never played a game at less than 10 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to be like negative 90. No, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I think with the wind, it's going to be like negative 25, right?
Well, I mean, if it's negative 90, I'm thinking to myself, how have I not seen that Goodell has not only moved the games to Europe and to Mexico, he's now got a game in Antarctica. So, I mean, it's going to be nothing but polar bears and penguins.
Wait, last thing on the Dolphins, and the floor is yours. They have played 6 games this year against teams that made the playoffs this year. They're 1-5. They're only win 22-20 at home to Dallas. The 4 games they've played away from Miami, they lost by 7 to Kansas City and Germany. Chiefs didn't even score in the second half. They lost 56-19 at Baltimore, 31-17 at Philly, 48-20 at Buffalo. Give me Kansas City. The line's moved to 4.5. I got it 4. I would buy the half point to 4 because I think of 4 as a key number, like 3 and 7. The floor is yours.
Well, I'm 100% on the Chiefs too, for a multitude of reasons. Whether it's cold, whether it's the Dolphins just signed Justin Houston, who I think is a pass rusher who's like 62 years old. So, I mean, no, they're in a pickle, and yeah, everybody knows the well-documented struggles of the Chiefs pass catchers. But if you can't get to Patrick Mahomes, he's eventually good. Travis Kelce's going to eventually find a way to get open, and then Patrick Mahomes is going to get him the football. So, there you go.
Yep. Yeah. All right. So we're both on KC. Okay. And I'm going out of order here, I think, because I like the Detroit Lions -3 on Sunday night. This is going to be a hell of a game. Obviously, Stafford coming back. I'm not going to give you all a bunch of stats because, we're running low on time. But I will say that although they lost Sam Laporta, and that's big, they did get back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who had been out since week 2 last week, and he had 4 tackles and the game-sealing interception. That's a big lift to Detroit's defense. And I just think at home, I know they haven't won a playoff game since, I want to say, 91, but this Detroit team is legit. I think they find a way to win by at least 3. So in my mind, worst-case scenario, push. I am on Detroit.
I'm on the other side.
Okay.
We're running short of time.
All right, so you like the Rams? Okay, I lean Bucks. I got to get some more information on Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. So for now, I'm a pass on that.
But I'm 100% on Dallas to blow. I know Jordan Love's not a rookie, but it's his first playoff start. That defense has been anemic over the last 6 weeks. I think Dallas drops a 45-17 hammer on Green Bay in the other playoff game we haven't covered.
Yeah, I lean Dallas. I love them in a money line parlay or a teaser. Maybe you put Buffalo in there with them with TJ Watt out for the Steelers, but I don't know, man. I'm definitely not laying the points with Buffalo. I do think they win, but I think the Steelers are going to hang around in that one. So
and especially the way Josh Allen turns it over. I mean, and Minka Fitzpatrick's coming back. So, dear Lord, that could be not only a pick, but a pick 6. And laying double digits in a playoff game, that's like trying to play Red Rover on an interstate. That's just not a really good idea.
Yeah. All right, we got to wrap it up. We want to thank Bet Online, Southeastern 14. Parting words, final shots. What you got?
Everybody enjoy their first weekend without Nick Saban in Alabama.
We will end on that. For Jay Greeson, I'm Brian Edwards. Bets and Ball Games with Edwards and Greeson, Southeastern 14. This one's in the books. We'll talk to you next week. We are over and out.